Fill their shoes in our office, and we'll take your seat up here too.
Okay, I'm going to open the meeting at 6:10 p.m. It's October 4th, 2023, and this meeting is being recorded. Ken, did you have a chance to look at the minutes from the previous meeting, September 20th?
Yes, I did.
Everybody prepared to vote on?
I don't think you included them.
Do we want to table it?
You can't open it.
No. Go ahead.
She didn't get them.
Just give me 1 second. I can read them. Yeah.
Did it come through?
It came through, but it didn't have
Didn't have the.
the attachment. I can see it, but I can't open
As
it.
long as 3 of us have read them,
You just
then
need a
we could
quorum.
vote on it.
How many do we have on the committee?
We're only missing Eric.
Okay. Then you'd have a quorum. You
We
could
do. We do.
But I'd like to read them too.
I'm trying to open them.
But you only need 3 for a vote, right?
Yep.
Do whatever you want.
All right, I'm just going to say, let's table the minutes till the next meeting so that we can go on. So, Matt Monroe of Select Soccer. Let us introduce the committee members to you. This is Ken Lytell, and he's currently the collector treasurer of the town of Whitman. This is June O'Leary, who has been just an invaluable resource to the town, and we won't mention the number of years. She's great. I'm Kathy Keefe, Assistant Town Administrator. Sandy Cortez, who is the...
Chair of the Conservation Commission.
Yep, John Galvin.
John Galvin, John Galvin.
John Galvin. And we're...
Member at large.
Nice.
Member at large, and we're missing Eric Joubert, who is, actually, he's an abutter to the property.
A butter and I would say resident expert.
Yes, all of the things. So I'm sorry that we're going to begin without him because he's really the driving force to this committee, but we don't want to really hold you up, not knowing what has become of Eric at this point. So the floor is yours.
What would you like to?
Okay, so I think so.
I would
Many
just
of us.
like to hear the history of your interaction.
Sure.
You know, why you came to us, what your ideas were, kind of where you've been, who you've been through. I know you started with Frank.
Yep.
So none of us really have that history
Okay, so start
of
from the
where
beginning.
you're
Yes,
at.
yes.
And Frank, you know, we actually wanted Frank to be on this committee, but he's got too many other things going on, so that would have been helpful. But so pretend like we don't know anything because
Sure.
I don't.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
right. We're all starting from different
You don't
starting
have to
points. So
pretend.
All right. So I represent South Shore Select Soccer. It's a club soccer organization based out of Hingham, Massachusetts. We have we own a building over there, 55 Recreation Park Drive, which is the South Shore Sports Center. Many of you know where it is.
I do.
Kind of the 2 indoor turf fields, basketball court, that area. By
Box
Pilgrim.
across there in the.
Lacrosse goes there. There's baseball that rents it, but it's in the same area as like the Pilgrim ice hockey.
Here he is.
And you own that building over there?
Yeah, we do.
Just started.
So we are, like I said, we're a club soccer organization founded about 25 years ago by a local resident, longtime resident of Rockland, the Lena family. We started primarily as a girls soccer organization and have recently started to add in boys programs as well. And we go anywhere from tots, 2-3-year-olds, all the way up to high school age. And actually, we started at U23 this year, so any kids coming back from college in a summer league type of a thing. Over the years, we've grown our enrollment from a couple hundred to just over about 1,000, a little over 1,000 now, mainly from South Shore communities. We currently rent most of our field space, except for whenever we go indoors to our own facility. So we utilize mostly Union Point. We use Legion Field in Weymouth. We use Lovell Field in Weymouth. Last year we went down to Duxbury to rent some field space there. But we're looking to, the decision was made for us to expand and to build and own our own soccer complex, right, with a couple of fields that we can have the use of. So we spend, the budget for field rentals is through the roof, as you can imagine, with over 1,000 kids in the program. so that's a little bit about our history. I started a search for land big enough in most of these communities around the South Shore. We wanted to be within about a 5 or 10 mile radius of Recreation Park Drive, our building over there, because most of our clients know that space. They are from Hingham, Norwell, Hanover, Rockland, most of the South Shore community. So keeping it within that same proximity was important to us. And so I started doing a lot of due diligence just on property and parcels and using the GIS maps. And then talking to most of the major developers in the area, the Bristol Brothers, the Industrial Park, anybody who was a large landowner. And ultimately, I think it was about last October, was about a year prior, I reached out to Frank to start a conversation on that parcel of land. And that's kind of how we arrived here. So
now you've since been in touch with Rockland. We don't know any of that side of it.
yeah, so I guess we started the conversation with Frank, back and forth. He kind of gave me the history of the property. I was able to do some due diligence in terms of the deeds and the county records and how it was passed over down over the years from Girl Scout camp, from one family to the Girl Scout camp when it ceased to be used and went to the town of Whitman. And then kind of the restrictions on the wish of Mrs. Alice Carlton to have it be used as recreation land going forward, so that it couldn't be developed in terms of like townhomes and
Residential
and stuff. We put it to a vote, so it finally got on the town of Whitman's agenda for the town meeting or the town vote in May. I think it was
May 1st.
where obviously I'm sure you're all familiar with it from that point forward in terms of the vote and the table and the questions and so forth. But it was really just through conversations with Frank that we got to that point. We had a survey done. We had some schematics done by Rad Sports, who's all out of Rockland, Field Turf Company.
When you say surveys, you had the 30 acres surveyed?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. We had, Frank gave us permission to have the land surveyed, so we did. We had the wetlands delineated. We had a full-on survey and I'll call it a first stab at a layout for what we would hope to put on the property.
I believe I saw that. Did you bring that?
Yeah, I did bring,
Great. Yeah.
bring a copy of it.
Great.
There are, since then, we've talked about different tweaks to it, but
Right.
We didn't want to go too much further in it until we kind of get the rest of the decisions on the table first. But this at least identifies, the wetlands, the conservation areas, the topography, and then where we would ultimately put a couple of the fields.
And so then, so do I have that right? Then you did approach Rockland, or you've had a conversation with Rockland. Do I have that right?
So once we had this done, we've had a few conversations with Rockland. I sat down with Doug Lapp, who's the TA over there, and
Right.
presented the plan to him. I've had informal conversations with conservation over there, Doug Galemi, just in terms of what we found and what we can and can't do. We've been to the zoning board and spoke with them about what rights we have in terms of the zoning and the usage that could be potentially done on that site. And then just informal meetings with the select board over there. Not in a formal setting like this, just because our owners are longtime Rockland residents. They know everybody in town, so they've bumped into each other here and there. So they know about what our intent is and what our wishes are. Most of them, once they hear the plan, most of them say, well, this is all hypothetical because it's not, you don't own it yet. So we get to a certain phase and a certain point of the conversation, and then it essentially ends because we don't want to waste anybody's time, and they don't want to put any false hope or anything like that. So
Did you have a general feeling of how they felt about it? Were they willing
Yeah, well, so I think it's
put in a residential zone on a single lane road?
what is the question there, sir?
Did you get any feedback or feeling of how Rockland felt about that?
Well, they want the land for conservation use, so it's a little bit of a push and a pull with them at the moment because,
Okay.
as Frank Lanham will tell you, that they've been asking to purchase the land from Whitman for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess we're eventually going to speak to Rockland directly anyways. June, did you have a question?
I've got 3 or 4 questions, but I'll wait till he's through.
No, are you through with your? Well, I think it's a good question point in the conversation.
How do you know? Oh, okay.
Well, do you have more to say, Matt?
no, so that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Right.
We've done. I met with Kathy and Mary Beth over the summer
Right.
to talk a little bit more about the plan and then Whitman's process for where we go from here. And what it would look like for Whitman.
Want to
We
show
know
us the
that-
plan? Yeah.
Well, so one of the other pieces, and I don't know if this is where your question is going to go, but when speaking with Frank and now Mary Beth and Kathy, our intent was to hopefully develop it for recreation field use, but it would also kind of serve a purpose of being used by the town of Whitman if and when your middle school project eats up all the field space that you have. So that was a big discussion that we would be able to donate field time back to the rec department and back to the town of Whitman over the next couple of years while you do your renovation on the middle school.
Well, first of all, I'd like to know how many fields you think you'd like to put in there.
Sure. I can share it to you.
You must know, and just a number.
Yeah, so it's
No, let's look at the plan.
it's 2
Yep.
full-size fields.
2 full-size.
It's only so even though it's a lot of acreage, there's a considerable amount of wetlands.
And how much acreage does that take? The 2?
So a field takes a full-size field takes about 1.8 acres.
You're talking about 2 or more acres of property.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about 2 or more acres of property for the fields.
For one field is about 1.8 acres.
So you got 3 acres then.
Yeah, well the whole parcel is about 25.
What?
Yeah, it's 30 actually.
25? Oh, what's there now? I thought that's what you wanted to do.
No, so the whole parcel is
Will you be having any buildings on it?
No, so this is the plan that we had. We had 2 fields and a 99.
That's Spring Street right there.
This is Beach Street.
Beach Street. Yeah, Beach.
Synthetic fields?
Mhm.
What would that be consistent of? What are they used for synthetic?
More than 2
Material.
fields.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now they've stopped
2 fields
using
plus
rubber.
what's
They're
Two-
starting
this
to
is-
use like
This is 2 fields and a
paper
99. So
filling.
this
That's
is
not paper.
half of this.
Like I know a lot of fields are getting redone and the rubber is not being used anymore, and they're using something
They
else.
overlap.
They just about. So you have a full-size field here, a full-size field here,
Plus that,
and this
so-
is a half.
So it's more than 2
like
fields.
this.
It's 2.5 fields.
2.5 fields.
Okay. No buildings.
No.
So do we talk about,
No.
we did talk, no bath? No bathroom facilities?
No, we were going to use portable ones.
So the hard courts are those
lovely
pickleball or something like that, or what is?
Yeah, so those would be hard court spaces. So that would be basketball, pickleball, tennis.
How much acreage are you planning on using here? You're going to develop this whole side of the park? I mean,
No, it actually. I mean, this isn't the whole layout. So the bottom, you can see the entire parcel of what it is. Where it's about half.
so that's half of
This is the entire parcel.
Yeah.
About 12.
So you
Oh, so you
basically,
see this guy? That's right there.
So this is
Right,
all down
that's
here.
right,
That's not
that's
being
right.
touched.
basically,
So it's really just like this top half up here.
So this right here is
Yeah.
the
you're
wetlands,
inside here.
right here.
Yeah.
Is that
Is this a topographic?
So you're not at all. In
So this is the center line?
That's the
No,
top.
this is the town line here.
Right?
So no, so it's all on
Yeah,
top
this
of
is
it.
our little back half.
So everything, yeah, yeah.
That is.
so this is all wetlands here, and where all it's where it's
plain and no marks.
So that's
That's all wetlands.
Yeah, okay.
On there.
And what's
So-
the green?
Where is the green?
That's topographical, isn't it?
No, that
No,
looks-
no,
looks like a
No, the
path.
topographical, I think the topographical is over here. Where, I don't know if
I
it,
don't see it.
it should show,
It should be
it shows right
185
here.
Beach Hill. Yeah, it should be about 185. Yeah, about
Wetland
100
buffer is
feet.
the
yeah.
green. It
So you've
says
got-
wetland
so-
buffer.
Okay.
So here you've got, this is your wetland buffers.
So everything that's not wetlands is gonna be taken up with that. You've got
These two
2.5 years, plus those other 3 things you're intending to.
So this is
So
all
all of this is fitting like right in here.
It's right in this area.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's outside of there?
Just
Nothing.
Nothing.
Wet.
Undeveloped.
Wet.
It's gonna
No,
say,
it's
it's,
wetlands.
So they're using about, I'd say you're using about a third of the property.
Yep.
And
Right.
Because
Right about
the-
here would have been the circle where the shower was and the tent camp.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we'd be probably right about here and
That's
then
where
right
the
up the
Girl
hill to
Scouts
Beach
used
Hill,
to
right?
be. Okay.
Yeah. And then this was
the
it.
Girl Scout camp is back over here.
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
Because
the
this
whole
is,
thing is the Girl Scout camp.
well,
but this is,
This is the Rockland piece, which is 30 acres. This is the 10 acres Whitman house.
Right.
that is correct. So when you come up the
Yeah.
pathway here, this is where you still see the encampment.
So this is all in Rockland?
This is all on Rockland side.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put the hardcore in this hardcore within the buffer zone, on the buffer zone?
Yeah, so it goes, it doesn't encroach, it stays outside of the 25-foot buffer. Everything stays outside of the 25-foot buffer.
Ah,
But that's pretty
that's something I
close.
didn't know. So it's
Have
all
you
in
shown this to Rockland Conservation?
Rockland Conservation has not seen
Okay.
the plan.
I mean, obviously, whatever we decide, Rockland's gonna be the one to approve it all.
Yeah, because we
Correct.
can't,
Correct.
So we
have
just,
no
this is step
jurisdiction.
1,
Yeah,
and Rockland's gonna be the next step.
right.
But we won't relinquish any ownership of the property by having your crowd come in, right?
No, well, it depends, well,
It depends on how you decide.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's really the question that
Right.
We
we're
have
trying
options, we
Trying
haven't,
to buy it.
we're trying to figure out.
yes, we
We're
haven't,
trying to buy it.
Well,
In an
we
ideal
don't
world,
It'd be silly
our
to put in all that stuff.
our
Right.
preference would be to buy, but
but
You know.
we,
All right,
we're
let's
still
see.
just,
Yeah,
we're still discussing options. We're not saying buy or anything, everything's on the table.
That's one of the options,
It is.
Yes,
Yes, it
but,
is.
yes,
isn't
but,
it?
It is, of
yes,
course it is.
yes.
Yeah.
Everything's on the table.
But yes,
It's
so,
interesting how you've
but
creatively work your way around the wetland areas, which I know they're close, but still, I mean, again, up to Rockland.
yes, it wouldn't be, our commission would not
And
have any.
considering it's all Rockland land, I mean.
Yeah.
That was a big thing to me to learn tonight. This was not gonna take Whitman there.
Yeah,
no, I'm not touching that.
No,
Not even
Nobody
closer.
ever said that.
not even close, I mean, you're like,
no.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because as my daughter was in Girl Scouts, we went up there and did our little camping and stuff with the Girl Scouts, and I didn't want to say
Right, and the
that.
access is through Rockland. The access to this is through Rockland.
yeah.
Won't impact the Whitman side.
It sort of makes sense after seeing it on Friday.
Would you,
that's-
if Rockland didn't want to sell it? and-
We own it.
We own it. It has nothing to do with,
Let me finish. They didn't want to sell it, or I'll let you use it, their half, and we didn't want to sell it. You left in a place where would you be renting this property from us or Rockland?
they can't,
We
They
own
can't-
it, so
we
it
own
wouldn't be
it, so
from
they
Rockland.
can't.
Whitman owns it, so we
Okay,
couldn't do
would you be
anything.
renting it? If we didn't sell it, would you be renting it?
We would, I mean, if the terms of the long-term lease,
What do you
Before
consider a
that.
long-term lease?
At least.
50 years with an automatic,
That would make sense.
yeah, with an automatic renewal.
That's similar to what we're doing with the middle school. It's a 50-year lease.
Well, then instead of renting fields, now you're renting land. It's kind of the same thing that you're doing now that you're trying to get out of.
Correct, but the cost to rent land is a lot less than field rentals.
Well, it doesn't have to be. If it's not, it won't be.
Right.
I like
That's
that.
very interesting. Thank you for coming and talking with us, because that opens a big part of my brain that wasn't before. I didn't know.
This part, this is our access.
Mhm.
This-
That's Whitman's
And
access.
then it stops here, and
Yes.
Town line.
everything,
Town line.
yes,
Yeah.
so everything here is where everything would be going.
Matt, I know you had sent me a version of this.
Yep, in a
Do you
PDF.
mind
Oh,
doing
you
it
do have a
again?
PDF of it?
Yep.
Well, yeah,
I'll send it to you again.
thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you
No,
send it to
Of
us?
course.
That way we don't have to stick
Of
with it.
course.
Yeah,
Be much more.
no problem.
It blows my mind to think that I didn't even know that. There's a lot we just don't. Yeah.
I'm impressed with how much work you've done already, Matt. Obviously, you guys are serious about this. So. Have you ever considered not doing synthetic fields?
We have. The challenge is you usually, when you're doing grass fields, you have to play on one
Maintenance.
and rest one.
Yeah.
So 2.5 would not be enough, right? Realistically, you need 4, and
Yes.
there's no way you'd be able to get that
Crop
many in there.
rotation, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. I mean, with 1,000 kids, we're using it 4 days a week.
You know,
I mean, we would consider maybe one grass. but
Who was
we
the
would still need-
company? The company was in Rockland that.
Yeah, so Rad Sports.
Right, okay.
They're out of VFW Drive. They're
They
best
do-
in the business.
They do
Yeah,
everything, yeah.
and so we would.
They just did the fields up. They just did all the work up at PC High. And,
Yep.
what would that do to the conservation end of what's around it? Having artificial fields.
It just depends on the runoff.
Yeah, they
It just
do.
Depends.
That's what I'm
It's-
wondering.
Well, it wouldn't be, I've never dealt with it, but it just depends on how it's built, the drainage,
Yep.
you know, it's,
Well, could
and
it-
there's a whole thing that has to go into it. There's like calculations, there's,
There's a lot.
yeah, runoff. They do rain, stormwater management. I mean, we just had like a notice of intent come for us last night. Our file is the notice of intent, and that's just a small one, you know. So there's calculations. They have an engineer come out. There's I mean, it's,
And,
Is this
and
the,
they have to abide by all of that.
is this
Yes.
They have-
the existing housing over? Is this where the housing is over?
So that is that townhouse complex.
yep.
This is a emergency access drive.
That's already there.
No, that we would have to put that in. to
So
get
this
access
is
to
this is
field.
the edge of the property where all the housing is.
Yeah.
Because that's beach right there.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
whatever I forget the name of that
Yeah, yeah.
townhome development,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
the
Where's
townhome
that
development.
trailer development?
So you're
Further
basically
down,
up
I
It's
against.
further down.
So you're basically up
This is
against
a
the
townhome
con.
one.
I think the townhomes are where the summer club used to be.
Up by the tower.
Top of the hill. Yeah.
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 Okay.
So how do you see this fitting in with the Carlton family wishes?
It's still recreation.
It's recreation.
It's still recreation. It's going to be open to the public. Hard courts will be open to public. The playground will be open to public.
Is there a fee with that?
Is there? Excuse me.
A
Is
fee.
there a fee if it's open to the public?
No.
So
We would
anybody can go
control-
in and utilize it with no charge?
Correct. For the hard courts and the playground, we would control access and scheduling for the fields.
So Whitman citizens, it was left for Whitman citizens. Can Whitman citizens use those fields?
Yes, as long as, from a scheduling perspective, Select Ed isn't using that. But we, like I said, we would donate field space and field time back to the residents of Whitman and the rec department so that they can do their games and so forth. But we would need to schedule it.
How does
I
Forge
used to
Pond
do
Park
scheduling,
work?
so I know what
I don't know.
scheduling
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, with scheduling?
I know in Braintree when Thayer Academy put in all the turf fields down, which is now a hockey rink. For several years, the town of Braintree was able to use the turf fields for their recreation, but there was a limit on it. I think it was maybe 5 years or something like that. And then Thayer went and built a hockey rink. But
The Flaherty boys played hockey, that's why.
yeah. But I know, I mean, depending upon what happens with the middle school, what would your timeline be to, let's say you get on, let's say everything gets passed, how long would it take to build this? and there's a lot of landscaping, clearing,
Yep.
and bulldozing to
Yep.
do. Is there any timeline by RAD on how long it would take?
They needed 8 to 10 months.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're gonna, that's probably why Rockland is up a little bit, because that's like 3 or 4 acres of trees you're gonna cut down.
Oh,
That's-
probably more than that.
Is that why they're, is that one of the
If it was
reasons
only
why
for
they're
a-
hesitating?
They want to, as part of their open space plan, they want to have an entire corridor around the entire town. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
this fits with their open space plan. However, they say it goes against their open space plan, but it's actually an open space and recreation plan, not just an open space plan. So by keeping it as recreation, it still technically fits the bill there, because they actually consider the Harmon Club open space, and that's also privately owned.
So would you consider, so basically, let's say this is the property here, so each sheet is here. So the Rockland Conservation is
So
down
it's like
here,
right
Eric?
here. Yeah.
The Rockland Conservation that we walked is probably down this
East
end.
Street, McCarthy Farm is right about, yeah,
Right about
McCarthy
here.
Farm would be right.
So we basically,
here.
the other night, we walked up here and ended up walking through the Rockland Conservation. It
That's
would-
like this area.
Yeah, so would there be some way, so if you're here, would there be some way for you to develop this backside into walking paths and
That was another thing that Kathy, that we talked
that
about.
way
As,
connecting the Rockland Conservation? Because we walked a path that took us right to the edge of this property.
Yep.
We couldn't really find, I don't know how you're here, so you obviously
You went
made
down
it after.
You went down to Plymouth Street?
We on Friday, the four of us walked.
Down the other end.
So you obviously made it back to your
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah.
Did you just bushwhack your way through, or what did
Yeah.
you do? Yeah.
Was it
So
there?
I mean,
I did the same.
yeah.
So I started at the Rockland Conservation, and I located all the
We
different
took it
points of
all the
interest
way
here. There's like a
Right.
palm down here. There's a whole bunch of outcroppings.
So I mean, we
So-
ended up down here somewhere, and judging where Oakdale is.
Yep.
But there was clearly view. I mean, I think we saw the stone wall that was probably along here.
Yes.
Where the barracks is.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be great if we could do both and have. I mean, because I mean, honestly, when we walked up here, there's a lot of work to do to make this
Usable.
usable as a walking path, as a nature trail, as a bike path. Everything's really overgrown, but if you would consider some kind of working with us on some kind of plan to,
Where would the revenue from the rent?
well, in the Whitman side, could come from the conservation preservation committee.
Where, if they were to lease the land,
We're not-
where would that
No,
revenue go?
But we would.
we are.
Kathy and I and
So
Mary Beth
if
have
we
talked
could,
about-
get as part of their
Probably in the
plan,
general fund. I'd
have
have to,
some kind
Okay.
of
I'd have to give you
walking
a,
paths,
Okay.
nature bike trails, and maybe even our preservation commission can get involved to offset some of the funding, but to develop the areas in here that could, I mean, because we have a pathway right up here. We drove it. It's a little overgrown, but it's a good size. I mean, I'm sure you've been up there.
That's Plymouth
And
Street.
there's no parking down
Yeah, it's
here,
a
but
cart path.
No.
there's no parking down here, but
But there is a single family lot between Buck Armour's house and
Oh,
the
you were
original
saying so.
farmhouse that's
Okay.
not built, it's
There you
owned
go.
by Godbout,
there you go.
which would make a beautiful parking
Yeah.
spot.
So I mean, that would be something to consider.
So we've already considered it.
Remember we walked in? Yeah.
We had spoken with Frank and Mary Beth and Kathy about how we can develop that into walking trails as well. We did to connect up here and then to connect down there,
Okay.
so that it becomes even more
attractive.
accessible and attractive for
I mean,
all
could you
town
guys-
residents.
I mean,
I just don't know what we can and can't do inside of conservation
Right.
wetland areas.
Well, none of it's right
Not
now,
conservation,
none
it's
of our
wetlands.
none of our
You
property
can't
is
touch
conservation.
wetlands. I can tell you that right now. You can't build, you can't
The
walk
wetlands.
on them,
Yeah,
yes, you can't, yeah. There.
So it'd
Off
be,
limits, right, Sandy?
it'd be nice to have. Is
Off limits.
this
Off
all?
limits.
Where does the wetlands?
So this is all wetlands.
That's
That's
all
the
wetlands.
challenge. So like, I don't know if you could get a path up here and then into this area.
You'd have to be
So this
outside
is not.
the wetlands. You can't.
This is not wetlands.
Well, I mean,
and you could go down this way, but then
right.
I
I know
don't
you got
I
houses down
thought there was a
Right.
trail that went in behind Oh,
So you couldn't even do
it's,
something up here,
Carlton's house.
pathway, walkway.
That's the
They go
caveat.
behind-
Right.
You
No,
can
that's
do
the caveat that runs
outside,
parallel. Dottie Conlon.
The wetlands.
Side.
Going
but
back
you
of the
cannot be,
house.
do anything in the wetlands
That's
at
the
all.
old writing.
Not even a walk path.
No.
Right,
No,
is-
no.
is part
Oh, yeah,
of
that's a
that.
hard no. Of
I've never
So,
been involved with that.
like,
so-
when,
so they-
somebody has wetlands on their property, doesn't matter that they own it, you can't do
Yeah,
anything.
I got a neighbor of mine down the street, in
Yeah.
Belmont Street, that did that.
I
Yeah.
got 7 acres
Come
of
see it,
that.
yeah.
You know that property, I'm
Yes,
sure.
I do.
Yeah.
95?
Dry out 7 acres.
Is that what it
A
is?
good place for it.
Belmont,
Oh, yeah,
Very
I've been
nice.
there so many times,
I bet
yes,
you have.
yes. So, yeah, wetlands, no.
Yeah.
We have, there's, in some places, we put, like, have them put up, fencing and a sign.
Right.
So
And then part of, like, when we do notices of intent and things like that, specifically says there's no dumping, there's no nothing, you can't mow, you can't
no.
do anything.
Do you know
I
what
mean,
it
you-
costs
it's
to put a
just-
fence up?
What?
So
You know what,
we
cost to
can
put
probably
a
have this,
fence up?
we can have
Yeah,
this
that's right.
conversation offline, but,
Correct.
hours of operation, what would your hours of operation be?
It depends on, I mean, if any of the things that are open to the public would have to be dawn to dusk, I would imagine.
Yeah, 'cause you're not
Right?
in lights, right?
So outside of that, the fields would be probably 4 to 8:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's when most of the usage and
Yeah,
and
'cause
kids.
there's no lights in planned, are there? Or
We had planned a few lights if we
Okay.
could.
Field lights.
Yeah, field lights. That's it.
Okay.
I hope they're not like the ones at the basketball court in the park.
No, the new lights.
The new lights they're down lighting.
Yeah.
You don't see much over like 35 feet.
'Cause this looks like a Logan Airport, it's just lights up very bright.
Yeah.
I don't know how close you'd be to any neighbors.
It's not.
Right there would be the neighbors.
Yeah, that would be the closest because then you're gonna have tree buffers on all sides, and then it's down a little bit of a valley.
So you'd put tree buffers up all around
Yeah,
the
leave the
property?
existing.
or
Well, we would
where-
leave the existing, and then this would still be all wooded and trees.
Rockland would probably want to see that. The tree buffer, the Rockland side.
Yeah,
we
they
don't
Right.
know what they're gonna.
Right.
Yeah,
say or
Exactly.
want, but-
Right. Right.
So, yeah,
Because it's-
but what do you generate for noise levels? Okay.
Depends on how the game's going.
Yeah, I mean it's how many parents show up.
Yeah. I've been to some pretty loud games.
And there's no bleachers or anything, you're gonna bring your own chair.
No bleachers.
And
no
then what
fence.
about like,
There'd be fencing around it. You'd have to do fencing.
trash
Looks like a
cans and
retaining
things like
wall.
that
Yeah, with
for
the
things,
fences,
for
This looks like retaining
trash and,
Sorry, I did miss the first part of it.
so what, like for trash cans and stuff, because people are gonna bring food or whatever.
Yeah, there'd be receptacles.
And
everywhere.
then who's gonna clean up the trash that doesn't make it in barrels or goes out of the barrels? Is that you?
Well, that would be us.
And then-
would be the managers of the
If you
entire complex,
fence that
owners
off,
and managers.
you're cutting it off to kids that want to run through the woods and play. How big are you planning on putting fences
Where's
The,
the fence?
the fences would just be around the fields.
around the fields? But
You'd
that's-
have
that's
to
almost 3
from a
acres.
safety perspective because we have some walls.
But that's like 3 acres. You're going to have fenced off to people.
Well, I mean,
Well, they use it, it's a field
It's a
anyway.
field.
How much,
So-
how much
Yeah.
total acreage would you use?
It's probably I don't know exactly what it is, but it's probably 8
Yeah.
acres.
I said 8 to 10.
Yeah.
A third.
Just looking at this
Yeah.
map,
Right, it's
Yeah.
a third. It's like It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this area right here.
That's 8 acres out of, there's 64 on their property in
No,
Rockland.
30.
It's all
It's
together.
30 and 10
Yeah.
roughly.
There's in Rockland.
30 in Rockland roughly, and 10 on the Whitman side still as part of the contiguous parcel.
Okay, but what are your plans to use? What acres?
8. I don't know what it is. It's probably about 8 to 10. It's this area right here.
So like a third.
Yeah.
So hi, who are
Is there any
you?
way that someone could?
Don Keith.
That's Don.
I'm the chairman of
The,
Okay, can you spell your name? Dawn?
is there any way of getting those
Yeah.
8 to 10 acres marked out so we could walk it?
All right,
and
Dawn, I
see
need you to
exactly
know
where
that
it
this
would put
meeting
things?
is being recorded,
Okay.
all right? And what's your function?
we get-
I guess if we get to that point,
Yeah.
Open
Yeah.
Space Committee.
would have it marked out.
Okay.
Because then we need to see where
That's
you're
great.
gonna,
Yeah.
what part of it you
Give
can
you time
utilize.
to.
It wouldn't have to be that, I mean, just like put flags, you know.
Have
Yeah,
you
yeah, it doesn't
heard
have to be
from-
formal, just a
select-
kind of
Yeah,
an informal,
just
just so
like,
we
you
can
know,
visually get an
social-
idea.
Correct,
Yeah.
I would
When
do
they-
that,
yeah.
we would have them do it, as
If-
long as, but we
yeah.
gotta get to the point
Right,
where
right.
Administrative.
it
Yeah,
makes sense
that's-
to do that.
yes.
Actually, if we got the surveyors map to produce the marks that were out there, and we can pretty much map it out ourselves. So you do fencing around the fields only, not around the border of the property?
Not around the property, no, just the
And what
fields.
happens to it in wintertime?
We use it until we can't.
So you're not gonna try and enclose it at some point, indoor fields type of thing?
At this point, no, we would just put the fields on.
Uh-huh.
This would be strictly for your soccer group, nothing else.
No, we would line it for field hockey, lacrosse, soccer, baseball.
What if Whitman wanted to use ours? It would be on a available time schedule.
Correct, we would have to work with.
If you're not playing soccer at the time, won't be playing it all the time now, but if you weren't playing soccer, they could use that field another, like a football practice or any other kind of event, they could
Yeah.
use it as long as you're not.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna
I would-
limit it to just soccer.
No, it's,
I would
it's
think-
soccer, lacrosse.
I would think Matt would give the available hours to Whitman Recreation, and then Whitman Recreation would
Correct.
hand out
Yeah.
assignments just like they do all the other fields.
Correct.
So whatever the availability is that you know, I'm sure we would work out some, we would expect so many
Yeah.
hours and we
It
could
does
work
go
on
through
that.
recreation.
And
It
then
would go
Whitman
first.
Rec could say,
Yeah.
who knows, maybe lacrosse gets it, or who knows, you
Yeah.
know, just for practice or
I
whatever.
was on that too, so you had to vote on it as well.
Right, yeah. So, but I mean,
Not looking to
anything,
put any building on the property?
no,
Okay.
that surprises me, nothing. Not even for maintenance or anything like that.
What about a snack shack?
No snack shack. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say no building. I think we would put a shed.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
would, put
shed?
we would put a storage shed somewhere so that we can house,
Your,
you know,
Yeah.
some stuff to
Tents
clear
or-
the fields
yeah.
off
Yeah.
and extra things.
Yeah.
But outside of that, no concessions, no snack shacks.
Yeah.
no restaurant.
No
Maybe a porta potty.
We would do something where we would have restrooms like that.
Yeah,
But we wouldn't get into, you know,
No
structures and septics
permanent
and all that
structures,
stuff.
okay.
No,
Yeah, so you don't really have any kind of water going in there, or
Correct.
it's just electrical.
correct.
This is Beach Street, is it?
Yes,
Yes, it is.
yeah, so
That's, what is that?
This
Beach Street.
we would
That's the
One of
Rockland
the-
access.
we would
to the land.
reallocate that to the middle there and get it away from the street and everything else.
And those are
Get the
three more
playground?
things.
Yeah, put the playground more central to everything in the middle there.
And how much property would those three things take? Looks like we're at another 3 or 4 acres.
altogether it's about 8 or 10.
All told, is combined, it's about 8 to 10 acres.
What would the
8 to 10
parking,
acres.
Yeah.
Right.
what would the
Out of
parking
40.
lot be, consist of?
like gravel or-
Asphalt, gravel, what type of?
Whatever we can get approved.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
What do you
think,
prefer?
I mean, I think everybody prefers asphalt, it's a little bit easier, but
But it
if it
depends
needs to
on,
be gravel, then it can be
and it
gravel.
depends on how close to the wetlands and how the runout is and everything.
Yep.
So,
It's 10 minutes of the
So do you want to, well, all right,
What's that?
yeah, do you have any more questions, Eric?
What were you looking at for a figure for
I said it's
purchase?
great having you on here,
Talked
we get
about
all
it.
those details.
Okay.
All excellent questions, I must say.
Done this before?
I was
Okay.
told one to ask
23 foot,
of the sale.
Oh,
16 foot.
Is this this is the lot here, right?
They're taking out a ton.
This is the lot.
Because you
This is the
We
law.
haven't discussed it yet.
Oh,
And,
haven't discussed
uh,
the sale.
and this is the Whitman line?
right here. This is what you- yeah, right. Yeah.
A lot of hurt, man.
Ken, you have any questions that are coming
What
forward?
type of retaining wall?
The
I don't.
the accountant
We have no
is
idea.
thinking about the rental.
That's
What I've seen Rad do, it looks like stone.
Okay, that was my, yeah,
There's a local
like the
receipt
one
line
probably
for
over.
rentals.
And
okay,
So it'd be a nice
what's it called?
steady stream,
right,
Yeah,
recurring,
south,
right.
out.
which
Typically money.
Kaka.
Oh, I don't
No,
know.
right. Is that what it's
With
called?
Kaka, yeah, the
if we're
barracks,
looking for
the
those.
military barracks as you
No,
get
no,
out.
no.
Oh,
Right, you
We're
gotta
kind
sell
of
that.
looking for
Yeah,
Those
for hidden
condos.
streams.
yeah, that's Kaka.
Right.
It's 50, 156,
Yeah,
156.
52
Wetlands.
or something
Yeah,
like that.
50.
I've never been down
It's
there.
Rye Hill, right, up on Rye Hill.
Yes.
Yeah, and that drops down in.
Yeah, that,
Right.
so they have,
Stone.
yes,
retaining
there's
wall.
this, yes, there's a stone, big stone, but yes. I didn't sound
So-
too long ago.
A lot of good ball on that one set up there. Get it nice and smooth so the lacrosse ball doesn't bounce away crazy places. Soccer balls don't.
All right, so does anyone have any more questions of Matt Monroe?
No, thank you, sir.
No,
Sounds
thank
like a
you.
movie
Yeah.
star's name.
No relation.
Name Matt Monroe.
So again, to be redundant, you'll send me the PDF again?
I will send you the
Thank
PDF.
you, and
Yep,
I
so
will
yeah.
forward that along.
That'd be nice. to
All right, yep, and you have
Awesome.
my contact and email, and we'll,
Thank you for your presentation.
No
yes,
problem.
yeah.
Thank you for.
Cleared up a lot of questions.
see. Oh, one big news question.
Good, very good, yep.
between seeing this and seeing the land on
I
Friday.
just have one
Mhm.
question.
It's certainly taken a different tone. though.
Yeah, good, that's good, enlightenment.
Have we approached Hanson? We have not approached Hanson. Is
There was a huge acreage of land that used to be a hospital in the county. And they're looking for people to start there.
oh really? Okay. Hanson. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you.
All right, so Matt will be in touch.
All right, excellent.
Yes,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
taking the
Thank you.
time, very
Thanks.
much.
That was very interesting.
Well, it helps to have a visual, doesn't it?
It just helps to have somebody that can answer the questions for me.
Right, right.
And
So, Eric, do you want to introduce your
This is
invitee?
Don Gann. He's from Rockland. He is with the Green Space folks from Rockland.
All right, Don?
excuse me, the what?
He's with Rockland Green Space.
Green space.
They're responsible for the McCarthy Farm.
Rockland Open Space. Okay, thanks for the technicality.
And it doesn't work again.
All right, and was that G-A-N-N or C-A-N-N?
C-A-N-N.
C-A-N-N, okay.
I always afraid of spares.
Okay.
Held and suspended me.
All right, Eric, you invited him. What is?
He just wanted to come see you and listen. It's an open
the
meeting.
floor
and
is
he's just
yours,
taking-
sir. What have you got to offer by way of?
Well, we would like to work with the town of Whitman any way possible to preserve the camp as woods,
Okay,
passive open space.
okay,
And as you know, we through grants we were able to buy the McCarthy Farm, which has one little corner that abuts the camp.
right.
And we're trying to create a ribbon of green all the way along the Whitman and eventually the Abington line. And Whitman has conservation land that abuts this a little bit further west, and we also have conservation land on our side, and we have pretty good prospect of acquiring other land all the way up. So the idea is if we can make a ribbon of green around the border of Rockland and connect with our neighboring towns. We do this, we do it with Whitman here. We also do it with Abington, the Griffin Farm, for instance. Part of that happens to be in Rockland. And the rail trail connects Rockland to Abington again and the town of Hanover. And in the base, we connect with Weymouth. We have trails on the base, and the green space in the former Naval Air Station actually is attached to Hingham's conservation land. And on the other side of Beach Street, where it's formerly the dump, there's PUD projects there that connect with open space. Although the plan unit developments have required open space, that open space goes up to the border of Hanover, and so we connect with Hanover again. And I think Hanover actually has conservation land that when they acquired the land, part of it was in Rockland. So we're putting the puzzle together. And when we presented the application for the grant, we mentioned this, and we mentioned that we were next to the Girl Scout camp, which is a wooded area owned by the town of Whitman.
With whom did you get the grant, or from whom did you get the grant?
We got the grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's the land grant proposal, land grant project. It was $400,000.
Oh,
Wow.
I understand they've moved these land grants up to $500,000 currently. We paid $900,000 for the McCarthy Farm, and we did that. Two things were in place. It was agricultural land, and then had a special tax rate under Chapter 61A.
yes.
And amongst that, they have to make the first offer.
The right of first refusal.
Right.
Yes.
We just did that with Peaceful Meadows.
However, they got a P&S agreement with the developer for $900,000. It was a little more because there was another lot involved, which was not part of the farm technically, but was where the farmers lived. But it was a separate lot. And we didn't want that lot. We couldn't acquire it with the grant anyway because it had a house on it. It was a house lot. And even if it came with the farm, the cost of keeping up a house and so forth was not in our focus. So anyway, we were also required to get professional appraisals on the
Yes.
land. And we got two, and they came out to say that it was pretty much equal to the P&S. So
Yep.
we had to go with the P&S, and that's $900,000. And I think the heirs, the mother actually at the beginning was alive, but she died during the process. Who owned the land? It was in a trust, and then the farm part of it was in another trust. So we only went for the agricultural land because we had a right to make the first refusal, I must say that this was a very popular project amongst the officials in town, and with town meeting, it flew through, and perhaps here and there was an applause. Also, I have to tell you that I went to, and members of the Open Space Committee went to almost every committee and board in town because we had, in order to get it, we had to have an approval for this board, approval
Right.
for that board, and so forth. Anyway, it was very successful, and it's a cornerstone piece of land. And I think one of the summits of Wright Hill is actually on that land, or it's on 10 acres. We own, the Conservation Commission owns 10 acres adjacent to that land, which abuts the line with Whitman.
So was the 400,000 able to be used towards the purchase?
Yes, it was.
So you
Yeah.
paid 500,000.
No. The 500,000 is current. When we applied,
But you paid a total of
$400,000 was the maximum. But we got from the CPA committee
Okay.
We got $250,000, and we also got from general funds another it was in the reserve funds for $250,000. So
Right.
we patched together the thing, and
Right.
there was some other cost involved.
Sure.
And the town was generous enough to come up with that. But anyway, and we have a trail there.
Yep, we actually went out and walked.
We're going to take the trail.
Yep.
And I think there are actually some older trails that connect right through to the Girl Scout camp.
We got close.
Few briars there, but yeah, there
yeah,
are
we
definitely
got
trails there.
Some I don't know if they're official with you. We haven't made any connections in that direction.
Yeah.
That's in the future.
Well, I mean, that's definitely something I think that I'm no matter what happens with soccer, let's, if we could get soccer to
Best of
develop
both worlds.
that, and, obviously we've got that, the wetlands in the middle, but the Whitman side of it isn't wetlands, and that's where we walked, and we were obviously
I'm
very
not
close.
sure about the Whitman side not being wetlands.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
there is some, but there's definitely
Yeah.
some connection there that
Yeah.
we could connect and develop the Whitman side of it.
The piece of the camp that's actually in Whitman offers, I think, a great gateway to this whole open space project.
Right. And you could actually go two ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so is there,
if we get down to
on the
58
other side of the camp, is there Whitman conservation land back there? Or
Where are you?
if you go
Plymouth
further
Street,
down 58
Yeah.
towards Abington?
So you'd go to
Behind-
Indian Trail would be the next.
Up in Abington, there is in Whitman's side some conservation land that comes up to the line.
Town forest was up there also.
I may have a map.
Little map.
Yep.
The town
He's
forest.
Yeah,
comes
I'll
up
see if I can pull that up.
that way, too.
I just got
So
this.
let's say there is more Whitman conservation land further up.
Yeah.
Are we able to do walking trails through conservation land? Just not
As
wet.
long as it's not wet, right?
As long as it's not wetlands.
Correct.
But conservation land or almost
right, synonymous with wet,
Yeah.
right?
Generally.
I can lend you an experience that we just recently had with our Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission was mostly in the reviewing business, where people were building a subdivision or whatever, and they came to review the plans for their subdivisions. They owned a lot of land, but they never thought of trails. Now, one of the obligations when we got this was to put trails in, and then we had to make a list of do's and don'ts, which the conservation was the official owner in the town. So they did a lot of discussion, let's say, on the do's and don'ts. Finally, they came to a do's and don'ts for the McCarthy farm. And then they realized that people would like to have access to other conservation lands, so they in addition to the McCarthy farm, the Conservation Commission came up with what you can do or what you can't do, and the rest of the conservation land. So it was a new chapter for the Conservation Commission.
So they had to
Well.
put walking trails on the conservation land?
Trails, and for instance, in some places they don't want hunting, and in other places they don't want horseback riding, or motor vehicles, and so forth. And in some places they may want, they may allow fishing but not swimming.
Okay.
And so all of these things were new to them, and I think it's a sense of progress for the land that they hold and for the general public.
Definitely.
And so do you feel like the rest of the town officials are generally supportive of these efforts?
Yes.
Yeah.
However, there's always a group of people in the town that look at taxes as the most important thing.
Of course.
To get it, and development is
Right.
important. and we're dealing with the Navy base, and we may not have the same endorsements.
Of course.
On the other hand, in this day of climate change and people who suffered through the virus all went out to the state parks and took walks in the woods, and so it became very popular.
If you maintain, I don't know, the use of the land in Rockland, the land from the camp that's in Rockland, would you be putting walking trails through there if you didn't let the soccer take it for fields?
I'm going to come a little closer because
That's
I
fine.
got my hearing aids.
Right.
I've got my
Bring
chart
your
all the way
chair
up.
right up here.
Sure.
So I'm gonna-
Now, if we only had a spotlight on him, we'd be really be able to drill.
Get that strong light on you. No, if Rockland maintains the use of that field, of the
Oh, I am not capable of.
No, I do.
So
Camp
sorry.
Alice Carlton,
No, that's
that
okay.
side of it.
If in the
Would you
future
be putting
know you
walking
wanna
trails
use
and
it,
Yes.
other things in there? You would be.
Yes.
Yeah, just a second.
Yep.
Throw it up.
And I think we would want a walking trail that somebody eventually could walk as far as they wanted to on the ribbon of green around town.
Okay.
And we've talked to Hanson. There's a big piece of privately owned open space abuts the McCarthy farm on the Hanson line, and we've talked to Hanson to see if they might acquire that.
What's on the Hanson end? Because I know
So-
they have they're trying to build up where the Plymouth Hospital was. So
Yes.
they're trying to build that up. That's what I was telling Mr. Monroe, that they're trying to find a way to get things into that property.
Yeah,
It's huge.
The McCarthy farm doesn't abut that.
Oh,
It's
It
still
does
it's
abut
still
it.
that Beach Street or Spring
Okay.
Street is the name of the street when you're in Hanson. It's
Yeah.
Spring.
Yeah,
but that
Right.
doesn't abut
yeah.
that.
There's a piece
What, they're
of
trying to put housing down there?
undeveloped land
On one side, yes.
On the opposite
There is.
side.
And it would
Correct.
be nice if the conservation / open space people in Hanson could acquire that. Then we make tracks into another town. And so it could be. It's not going to be the Appalachian Trail or Bay Circuit, but it could be a nice adventure.
No Green Mile.
The land next to McCarthy on the Spring Street side there, down towards Hanson, is that Rockland land yours?
Yes.
There's 547?
There's a 10-acre parcel between the McCarthy farm and the Whitman line.
On the Hanson, I'm more down towards
You
the
have a map
Hanson
there?
line. Is this privately held? I can't get the GIS map with the names on it. But this 547.
You're in Hanson.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Rockland's here. This is McCarthy, right?
This
That's
is
the corner of McCarthy.
this is the piece of land we've been talking to Hanson about. This piece
Does
of
Hanson have it, or Hanson owns this one?
no,
right?
no. Oops, I
That's
touched
okay.
it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
This is Hanson.
Yep,
It's privately owned,
it is. Okay, yeah,
but
that's okay.
it's not built upon. So
Right,
we
I
do-
don't think it's buildable, right? Well, it's
this
pretty
piece
wet.
up here between the McCarthy farm
landlocked.
Yeah.
and Whitman is
That's owned by
Rockland Conservation.
Right, you guys already own that.
We already own that.
This is the guy up off of 58. It's basically an easement down into the back.
Yep. It's
And then that's Dave, and then that's the Girl Scout
That's
camp
the Girl
on
Scout
Rockland,
camp.
and that's the
Yep.
Whitman side of.
yep.
It's an ambitious project.
Yeah, but you could have, if we can make this work, stay even further down from 58, but down by Cox's Corner, you could hike all the way up to and over into Rockland.
Yep. Well,
And then you could tie in
we're
on that.
concentrating up to Summer Street right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then that would get you to the rail path, right?
I know we'd have to cross on the other side, and on the other side of the street, I have to have them out of
Right, you know,
at this
yeah.
point.
Not trying to put you on the spot, sorry.
All right, John. I have a $1 million question. What do you suggest our next step would be here in Whitman?
Yeah, Well, there's certain questions. I don't know if the committee is in favor of the development of the soccer fields on one side or not. If you are, then it's pretty much laid out for you. The town would have to get either a sale or a lease situation. Probably a lease situation, because depends on a lot of things. Sometimes if a town wants to sell a piece of property, they have to have an auction on it. I don't know if this qualifies for that or not. I think the town can lease property without having an auction, and sometimes even in that you have to open it up to. You can't just pick a person. You have to open it up.
Right.
You have to talk to your town the town attorney, your land use guy.
I'd like to talk with him.
And what I think the Open Space Committee and Rockwell would like to see it remain as woods.
So I'm just going to cut to a question. So let's say Whitman was considering leasing that, but then it would be Rockland who would be the ones to say yay or nay on placing the fields.
They would have to go through
Right.
They would have to go through the planning board
Right.
and Rockland.
Okay.
All of this stuff.
Right.
It would leave Whitman to consider, and I would go to the Rockland planning board
Okay.
and the Conservation Commission, because there's lots of wetland
Okay.
there.
Right.
So
Okay.
can we put the brakes on this for a second?
Yes.
Go back to town meeting. What was our warrant article? Weren't we? Didn't the article say something about selling it?
Yes, part 2 said sell or lease, and my counterpart was to turn it over to conservation,
Right.
which
But
kind of blocked it, so we only accepted it, period.
Right. So if it was an article on our warrant that we were going to lease or sell it, and it actually was, I think, directly to South Shore Soccer,
Correct.
wouldn't have town council already gone through that would have been something that if we had approved that, the warrant article was to lease it or sell it to Select Soccer, I would think an auction would have already been vetted by town council.
Well, that's
I'd like to
part of the
speak
problem
to
with this
council.
is that South Shore Soccer's had the only access to it. We haven't put
We
this out for
haven't come to a
public.
meeting.
No, I know,
So
but I was
there's
just saying,
this-
if that warrant article had been approved, I would have think that, I'm just getting back to the
Yeah, yeah.
auction thing, and I wrote question marks on it. What happens if, even if, what Open Space did in Rockland, where you purchased the McCarthy Farm, if we were to sell the Rockland property to Rockland, to your organization, wouldn't it have to go to an auction then as well?
I don't know. All of those are town council.
Do you understand what I'm saying, Kathy?
I know, I do. So I have homework.
So certainly, I mean, here's what our committee would do. We'd love to be able to buy the land and turn it into conservation land
From Whitman, by that,
with
all
all the
the Rockland land.
restrictions. We would put certainly a sign, the gift, within the language of the gift, they hope to have a sign on it saying the woods of the gift giver. And we would do that, and I came up with a little patch from a campus patch from the from when it was a camp. And I would recommend to our committee that would be part of the graphics on the sign. And we would just incorporate it to make it passive recreation woods. I think that's
then at that point to develop any, we walked the property the other day, and there's a lot of work to be done to make it into a walking trail.
yes.
And from Whitman's standpoint, none of our community preservation money can go to the Rockland side. We can only develop the Whitman side.
Right. But
So where would the money come from? Would that be part of what you would do? I'm just trying to understand.
Rockwell we would bring the once we establish the price, okay, we would go for grants, and community preservation would be our first thing. I can't tell you what it was. I don't think any of us can tell you what
The price would be.
the price would be. And certainly that would end the private, that is the taxes.
Payment in lieu of taxes, right?
That's correct.
Payment in lieu of taxes.
That would end that, certainly. And the Open Space Committee didn't have anything to do with that. In fact, when we inquired about that, we were just told we could do it, so we're going to do it.
Well, when the Peaceful Meadows came up, that's private property. We're talking about a man who left this land to the town of Whitman for the Whitman citizens. That's a different thing than Peaceful Meadows.
Yeah, but I'm not
Yes,
saying.
it is.
But I think what he was saying that if we decided to recommend to sell the property, sell it to Town of Rockland, sell it to soccer, whatever, we're going to sell this hypothetical.
Yep.
If we sell the Rockland property,
30 acres in Rockland also.
to whoever we sell it to, the
Yeah.
open
Right.
space, that he was saying because it's town property that it's possible we couldn't just decide to sell it to soccer or decide
Well,
we'd have to have an auction for it.
No, because we could not utilize the deed, which would be keeping within the wishes of the deed.
Yeah,
The original deed to the camp, which was to keep it for the town of people. And when we sell to them, we would put the stipulations in that it will maintain walking paths and that the town of Whitman will maintain access.
Stipulations have been on every deed.
we would, if the Rockland Open Space buys it for open space, we would guarantee that we would respect every aspect of the gift.
Right.
Right.
And we'd have a tight deed there. No loopholes.
That may not be
So
what you want
Kathy's
to do.
got her
You may
homework
just
for
want to keep it and have it as open space for under the town of Whitman.
Be
Right.
another thing.
So
And
Kathy, are we authorized to utilize town council to?
Certainly not. So that's got to go. Certainly
so.
not.
Yeah.
That's got to go through the office of the town administrator.
well, doesn't she owe us an answer though from town meeting?
Well, so there's research to be done here.
Aren't you the assistant?
I sure am.
Could we ask Mary Beth to have the lawyer look into this?
So
the
here's
town
what-
lawyer?
No, we cannot.
Here's
They're not
what,
going to spend any money.
here's what we're going to do is we're going to research what has been asked of town council thus far.
Yeah.
We're going to research how the article was authored for town meeting. We're going to do that. We're going to actually then go back to the deed and discuss the restriction in the deed.
It's not a strong restriction.
It is not.
It's a wish that they have.
That's right where I was going with that.
The verbiage, if I'm not correct, is all the restrictions and something of the previous deed.
So, and I'd also like to have Sandy Cortez give a little educational thing on conservation land because I could use that.
Direction southwest.
I have a question on conservation. So we have so many acres in Rockland. If hypothetically we decided that we wanted to work with soccer, could we divide that parcel and sell them the 8 or 10 acres that they want, and then have the rest of it go to conservation
I
in
think that's-
Rockland or
yes.
something like that?
Why-
Why would we sell? Why would we not lease?
Just leave it.
Because then we can generate revenue and put the revenue back into the land so that we can get the pathways developed, which was
Well,
It's options.
my hypothetical would be whatever we do with soccer's developing what
Right.
we talked about.
whatever section of land we
Whatever
get them.
section, whatever path, I mean, it sounds like they've already considered that. And again, this is just hypothetical. I'm
Yep.
just saying there's wetlands in there.
Yeah.
So no matter why, if they're only using 8 or 10 acres, the rest of it
Could be pathways.
could be pathways all the way
And
back.
the rest of it is contiguous with the piece that's right in
To
Whitman.
Whitman,
it's going
Right.
to be one
And also hooks into the
contiguous.
conservation land and the,
Right.
on the
McCarthy
farm on
Farm
the
and-
backside.
yeah.
Right.
So you could develop that, and then you've got the soccer owns 8 or 10 acres or leases or whatever. Then the rest of it maybe goes to conservation in Rockland, and I don't know if Rockland would want to. I mean, I'm thinking purchase only because let's say we sell it to Rockland for the wetlands, if they would even be interested, I don't know. Our land becomes conservation, and we make all pathways to it, and we have soccer pay for all of that. I mean, soccer wants the land; they've got to do what we want to do with the pathways. The other side would be Rockland by all the Rockland side, and do whatever you want with
I
it.
can tell you that my preference is to acquire the whole thing for open
Right.
space.
I understand that.
I understand.
Yeah, so-
And but by the way, when Peaceful Meadows, incidentally, I have a gift certificate.
Me too. I have 6.
An ice cream cone there, and it's close.
Go over to Norwell. see
You're
if
late
they'll
to the game
honor it
there.
over there.
Yeah.
Plymouth. Go down to Plymouth.
But I got
Oh,
a
yeah.
free red shopping bag and a couple of labels for one of the cream products.
Oh, yeah.
Wildlands Trust was involved.
Wildlands Trust?
Yes. Are you
Yes.
familiar with Wildlands Trust?
Yes, because they were in the negotiations with Peaceful Meadows and that whole thing. So yes,
Yes.
we are familiar, or I'm familiar with Wildlands Trust.
Yes. And who was the person that
Scott McFadden.
he formerly was on the Open Space Committee in Rockland,
Understood.
and he's an expert at these
Yes,
things.
he is.
And I would not make a move unless I talked to him
Right,
because he
Right.
he has solid advice.
right, right. Okay.
So back to the deed, if anyone's interested. On or when the said real estate shall be shall by the said Whitman Girl Scout Council and Corp. be diverted from uses, interests, and purposes of the Girl Scouts as herein described, specified to other interests, uses, purpose, therefore mentioned, then the title of the said Girl Scout Council and Corp. shall forever cease and be vested in the town of Whitman, with the wishes that it be used for recreational purposes of the citizens of the town of Whitman and be called the Alice Carlton Memorial Woods or Park. It also, in a different section of the deed, talked about that the churches could go in for Christmas and cut out the holly and the branches and make their wreaths and stuff. So,
I wonder when the last time that was exercised.
Right, right.
it will be this week if it needs to be. My church group will gladly go do some cutting.
I think the town that is Whitman did a conservation survey on the land, and that's probably available. I think the Board of Selectmen authorized that because I remember hearing about it in one of the selectmen's meetings. That
I'm familiar with one that was done on the Whitman side,
Oh, only on the Whitman side?
my understanding.
You better check that out because
Okay.
somebody said they were up there and they saw the
Okay.
somebody in
I will.
the
Well,
rocket
the
side.
soccer group did a survey up there.
Yeah,
Oh, the socket.
Soccer
yeah, they had a
did.
whole thing.
Okay.
What did they do?
Did they make
They
that
surveyed
public?
the land.
And that was what he
It's
had
private.
part of it.
They don't have to.
Okay.
It's just.
But he's going to share it.
Yeah, I mean that's
Right,
what we were
but-
looking at today.
Right, but it's not public
No, it's not out there available online.
Right.
Right.
because they own they paid for it. They had permission to do it, so it's
Eric-
their private information.
Do you have Dawn's
Yes, I've got all
contact?
Dawn- yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, so,
I think we can.
yeah, we're running
Yeah,
on the
can we-
clock, I think,
right,
so.
right.
We'll wrap this up.
So we have your contact
Yep.
information, and as we go along, we will certainly be in touch. Thank you for taking the time to come talk with us.
Happy to do it.
It was nice learning what Rockland was
Sometimes
doing.
get in trouble for the time I spend on these things at home.
I know it.
hear
It's,
ya.
it's after dark, sir. That's right.
And I have to call my wife because I'm not good at driving in the dark anymore.
Oh well, we'll vouch that you were here and not somewhere else.
When you have it on the.
That's right. We have proof.
Voice recorded.
Yeah, we went across the street.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:25?
I
Yes,
motion
and
to
thank you for coming.
Second.
I'll
Thank
second.
you for coming.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
To hear
And
what you're
I
doing.
hope
Nay.
we all have great success on this.